Now, Andy Burnham is still working on who's in his cabinet. He's due to take over as Prime Minister from Sir Keir Starmer on Monday, so he's got a busy weekend ahead. This is what he said as he was appointed leader of the Labour Party yesterday.
I have listened and learned as I've gone along, you'll be pleased to know. And hopefully, I've got better as a result. You can be sure of this. I know what I believe after 25 years as an elected Labour representative. And I know what I want to do, working with you all. I have a plan. And what I also want you to know is that I won't change. I have a style, it's my style. I will always stay close to the ground, close to the people.
Well, Stuart Bruce was Andy Burnham's Director of Communications in the 2010 Labour Leadership Contest. We can speak to him now. Morning, Stuart.
Good morning.
I mean, first of all, does it feel slightly surreal that, you were alongside him in 2010 when he lost to Ed Miliband, I think it was, and then, of course, you weren't with him in 2015, I think, when he lost to Jeremy Corbyn. So do you feel it's a slightly strange situation? Do you have to kind of slightly pinch yourself to think he's basically been given this coronation?
It feels extremely strange, not least because yesterday when he became Labour Party leader, it was my birthday.
Oh.
So in terms of the best birthday present possible, that was it.
Oh, were you still there, Stuart?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Oh, yes, sorry, yeah. Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
So
it was very surreal.
Yeah. How has he changed, would you say? I mean, between the first time round in 2010 and where we are now in 2026, how has he changed? Has he become more likely to be a good leader in those 16 years?
I think inevitably so. In 2010, he had experience in 3 different cabinet positions. So he was really a really experienced potential leader. But I think if you add that to what he's been able to do while he's been leader of Manchester, which is such an all-encompassing role, you can see that in how he is today. He just has so much more kind of gravitas and experience. But you heard in the clip where he said, "I won't change." And he knows what he believes. And I think that's what hasn't changed. He had a really clear sense of direction in 2010 about what mattered. And I think you can still see that today. It's the same things that matter to him.
So he's got a lot of convictions. I mean, we know quite a lot of what he is and what he represents, and his love of football and all these other things. But he's got some really difficult things to deal with, hasn't he? I mean, it's a hard job as it is, and it's potentially even harder since in the last 2 years, Sir Keir Starmer has tried and failed to win the public over to this concept of actually, you've got to do difficult things, you've got to do unpopular things as Prime Minister. And I wonder if you think that Andy Burnham has got it in him to do a better job of that.
Yeah, I think what we've seen over the last 2 years with Keir is there were some huge challenges when they came in, but it felt very defensive. And I think what we're going to see with Andy, and you got a hint of it in his speech yesterday, that he's going to kind of he understands that offence is the best defence, which is perhaps a lesson we should have England could have learnt earlier. But I do think there's going to be a sense of that in terms of Andy's approach to government. He recognises those big issues, but isn't going to be afraid to tackle them.
And will he be good at winning people around, do you think? I mean, you look at the headlines of the papers today, and I suppose they're pretty much divided in the way you would expect. So, for example, the Daily Mail, the Daily Telegraph, basically talking about him dragging us back to the 1970s. The Guardian, slightly more positive and optimistic, but saying, well, basically, he's got to try and, if he's going to try and beat the right, if he's going to try and make Labour mean something, then he's got to kind of do it now. But I suppose a lot of the people he's going to have to win around don't read newspapers.
No, but that's actually one of Andy's strengths. He's actually, if you look at some of the social media things he's doing, if you look at the kind of the Q&A that he did in Cardiff on at the end of the week, he knows you've got to go directly to people, not just to talk to them, but to listen to them. And I think one of kind of Andy's great strengths is he does have this empathy of when he sits down and talks to people. The Andy that you see in private is very similar, is the same Andy that you see in public. So I think there's kind of those skills of empathy, listening to people, understanding people, relating to their issues, is something he's going to be able to get across. And I think the other big thing that we're going to see, which will bring people on board, is hope. I think it's very reminiscent of kind of the early days of Reagan or Clinton, or even both terms of Obama. What they were promising is hope. And what that meant is that even some people that were reluctant, that might not be natural supporters, were willing to listen, were willing to give it a chance. And I think if we see that coming from Andy over the next few weeks, the next few months, then there's a real opportunity about pulling the country together, and people that wouldn't necessarily give him a chance being willing to do so.
How do you think he's going to go down overseas? We know that Keir Starmer made a big impression on, in certain areas. He became not so popular in the White House in the last year or so. But do you think that Andy Burnham has got it in him to be able to take on and win over President Trump and his and those kind of big political figures on the world stage?
I think in terms of winning over big political figures, absolutely. In terms of President Trump, I think Trump is so unpredictable that it will be more about what Trump thinks rather than anything that Andy or any other leader could do. And I do think that when we're looking at kind of the cabinet appointments, who he appoints as foreign secretary is going to be really important, because, inevitably we want a prime minister that's able to focus on both international affairs and domestic affairs. And if we have a really good foreign secretary, you can do that heavy lifting. I mean, Yvette is amazing. Should be excellent to continue in the role. But I think he needs that support, not because he's not capable of doing the international stage, but simply because there needs to be more focus on the domestic agenda.